I am often too early. And what I mean by that is I have a
Mm.
very short attention span when it comes to trading, holding assets. I see shiny things and I move. I have bought way too many things that have done incredibly well, way too early and flipped out of them for a loss, even. Not even for a little 2x or whatever, like for a loss.
What's up, everybody? It's LG Doucette here, and welcome to the Milk Road Degen podcast, the show where I pretend to be early, but you and I both know someone's already up 20x. Today's guest is Jampzey, the lead attention getter on CT. Listen, I didn't even know this guy was a couple months ago, and I'm blown away that I didn't know him because this guy has some of the best tweet game I have ever seen, and he's also just an excellent narrative trader, and he has something today that he is super hot on, and we're going to debate it. He's also going to tell us about his Pudgy Penguin PFP and just give us a little bit more insight into all the commentary that he dishes out on Twitter and in general, and why he's locked and what he's locked in for the next 6 months. Before we get started, I just want to point you guys to Milk Road Degen Pro. It's where I put a lot of my efforts. We have a pro report on Fridays. We have what else do we have? We have a special Discord channel where you can chat with me all day and ask me a lot of questions. People do ask a lot of questions, and all that for, I think, pretty low monthly rate. So check out the link, Milk Road Degen Pro, right below in the description. And that's enough out of me. Jampzey, what's up, dude?
Yo, what's going on, man? Happy to be here. Excited to have a little chat today. Just hanging out, man. Just watching the charts, seeing what's happening going into the weekend, and ready to crack a beer in a couple hours.
Oh, fuck yeah. I have to tell you, you are the first Anon person we've had on the show. We've been doing this for like a month and a half. We've had some celebs like Luca Nets. We've had like Mando and OSF and all these wonderful guests, but we have not had strictly a PFP yet. So you are the first.
Interesting. I will say I'm only soft and on. I'm pretty doxed, and I go to a bunch of events.
Oh.
And people know who I am. But I like to embrace the immersive penguin and really role play as the penguin. I think that putting a face to the brand, I truly believe this, diminishes it, because I've really taken this penguin and ran with it. And I do think that I'm not as sexy as the penguin. If I start using my face, I might lose some of my female followers.
Your female followers, all like 4 of them that exist on Twitter.
You should see my stats. It's pretty impressive.
Would you ever actually? No, I'm not even gonna go there. It's too weird. Are people surprised when they see you for real? Like, are you much taller, much smaller, like much bigger, stronger than people think? Like, what's the impression?
So yeah, the general consensus when I meet people, am I allowed to swear?
Of course. Fuck yeah.
I get a couple things. I get 1, okay, you're not nearly as retarded as I thought. 2, I get, oh,
That's
fuck, because I'm a big dude. And 3, I get people that don't even believe me that I'm me.
No.
Yeah, so it's well, because I like, I have I might have split personality disorder. Like, I have this very calm, articulate side of me that can have good conversation and have, interesting thoughts to share. And then I have this side of me, which is kind of where the Twitter comes in, where I get to kind of use it as an outlet to just let all the shit that happens in my brain out. So a lot of times people get to see that side of who I am. And then they meet the real me, who's, don't get me wrong, I'm not like a fully introverted person, but just not as outrageous, I guess, in person. And it's kind of hard to put the two together and believe I am who I am.
People used to tell me that they thought I would be taller when I first met them, especially when we had like a show. What's that?
You got to be tall.
How tall do I appear? Because you're just looking at me like head and shoulders here.
Okay, well, now I'm biased. I was going to say 6'0", but now I'm going to say 5'9".
No, I am 6'0" is actually spot on. So you're good at at this. I met somebody once and they were like, I thought you were 6'6", and I'm like, what? Why would you just assume I'm
6'6"?
Who's 6'6"? Who is 6'6"? Actually, Milk Road has a pretty high average height, especially Jay and Kyle are like quite tall. Like, I think Jay is 6'5". So I will say Milk Road does have bias. Yeah, there are some freakishly tall people in crypto. I think Milk Road would have a good basketball team, put it that way. But I'd be the point guard. We'll put it that way. Like, it's just 6 feet.
But according to all the DEI rules, they do not just hire on height. We have to make that disclaimer.
I don't think Milk Road has any DEI rules, but yes, that's fair. I don't think you can have those in crypto. The pool is too small
Yeah, that's true. Touche.
of non-white guys. Honest, let's be honest.
Yeah,
It's
touche,
just what
touche.
it is. It just is what it is. Dude, okay, we're recording this on Friday, and the bad news is that this doesn't come out until Wednesday. So for people that are Milk Road Degen in the pro thing, I'm gonna leak to you guys some of the stuff that we talk about, so you'll have heard about it already. But Jampzey told me in the pre-show that he is hot. He is tingly hot on the hottest thing that there is at the current moment, which is Aster, which is a Hyperliquid competitor on Binance that a lot of people are saying will be crimed up by CZ. Jampzey, give me your take on that, man. Tell me more about that.
I mean, I'm of the opinion that I totally agree with that. I think it's going to be crimed up. Whatever you want to call crime. Crime is such a broad term to use usually when people are either just, it's hopium, right? But I do think it's going to perform incredibly well. And there's a couple of reasons for that. One, it's very apparent that they think they're losing market share to Hyperliquid over the last year. For them to not have listed Hyperliquid as a token or acknowledged it is incredibly telling. Sometimes silence is louder than words. And it's obvious that they don't want to support Hyperliquid for whatever their reasons are. But I think a part of that reason is because they're losing a lot of market share to them. But I mean, funny enough, today Hyperliquid listed Aster. So they're not scared as hell. They actually they're gonna make fees on this, right? So in my mind, I look at this. Maybe I'm stupid, but I look at them like, wow, there's a lot of volume, 400 million volume yesterday. Like, why don't we take a piece of that pie and make some volume? Like, it's going to be traded somewhere. We should list it. But I do think that they're really going to try, and it's not just them. I think yesterday or 2 days ago, Justin Sun with Tron has announced that they're going to be launching a DEX. I think Coinbase also is launching it. So this is not just a little one-off. I think a lot of these businesses are seeing opportunity, right? And the signal with these three companies coming out and saying that they're going to be launching these products is telling in itself. There's a narrative there.
Why is everybody suddenly launching a Perps DEX? Because in some of the Hyperliquid, like, this isn't news. You know what I mean? Like, their token is 8 months old now, and they've been around. People were farming that. People were using it for Perps. They've been dominant on Perps on chain for 2 years. So why are people suddenly out of the blue building competitors?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think there's a couple answers to that. I think right now the new regime of law and rule makers in the US is a huge driver of that. I think that a lot of the enforcement by action that we used to see from the SEC and from some of the regulatory bodies is now going to be enforcement by, here are the rules, follow them. And that allows these like CFTC launched platforms, like Coinbase is launching a DEX as well, where I think they probably would have never looked at doing that before. But now under the new kind of regime of what's going on, I think that it opens up a really big avenue of not just perp DEXs in itself, but just new products that people would shy away from. I think it's a very lucrative business. I think that I approach perps as a semi-quasi gambling business that has way less rules or regulations than gambling. I think a lot of people do use it for gambling. I couldn't attribute how much volume on a daily basis is I'm a gambler on perps though at the end of the day. Like I don't always trade with stop losses or with discipline. And I call that gambling, quote unquote. So this is a different market than people buying a spot Bitcoin and spot ETH. This is people that want to take on more risk, that are willing to pay carry fees and liquidation fees and funding fees to the platforms. And I think it's a vertical that's basically untapped other than Hyperliquid in terms of size, like real market share. And if I'm a business who's growing at a certain rate in my own vertical, let's say as a regular exchange, and I have the resources and the engineers to make something that could make us more money, why am I not doing it? Right? Even if I can get 5% of the perp DEX pie, I'm pretty sure mathematically I can pay my engineers to do that and will be profitable. So I think regulation right now is a huge attributor to this. I also think that it's one of these things kind of like, when the gold rush happens and people start flocking in, everybody wants a piece of the pie. And now that it's not just Hyperliquid, but now it's Tron, and now it's Coinbase, and now it's everybody is going to want to compete. And it's this self-perpetuating idea where the more these things become hot and talked about, the more people are going to log into them and check them out.
So you're saying basically, and I agree, you know, I think that you're framing it a really nice way. So you're saying because of the very loose regulatory environment in the US, we're now seeing a lot of like more extreme gambling primitives become like not legal one way or another, but being developed in crypto.
Just like prediction markets. Prediction
markets. That's what I mean. Prediction markets is a good example. Yeah.
Prediction markets are gambling wrapped up in a different way. And I think they're going to be bigger than sports betting and casinos in the next 10 or 20 years. And the reason I say that is because the way that they wrap them up with this consensus of information and the way that they're not, fixed odds like gambling, they're going to be able to be perpetuated everywhere all over the world with almost no regulation. And that's not true, no regulation, but nothing close to the licensing that casinos require or betting requires. It's this like golden child to what everyone's been waiting for. And I think traditional gambling and casinos are going to get into predictions as well. Just like we've seen them try and get into, look at some of the platforms. I mean, we don't have to name them and name drop them, but some platforms have perp trading on them, right? So I think that, again, this is a new vertical. People are going to see an opportunity for a business that is probably tapping into a huge part of a market that's untapped, that won't gamble. They're not sports gamblers, but they will help provide consensus with economic stake.
So then all that to come back to, you think, what's the bull case for Aster then? Like that Binance wants to go and get a piece of that, even a 5% of the Hyperliquid, whatever it is, $5 million a week in revenue.
Oh my God, they're doing way more than that. They're doing like 3 to 7 mil per day.
Per day, right? Yeah, sorry, I got wrong.
So yes, I think that my bull case is a couple things. One, the whole crime concept, whatever you want to call that, but I'll say CZ is a very powerful person with a lot of access to capital, people, investors, social capital, and I think that he has something to prove. And he always has. I think that's why he's been very successful in creating his business. And I think that he has something to prove here, especially with, I don't know if people are aware or if you've seen, but he changed his bio on Twitter this week from ex-Binance to Binance. So I think he's back. And I think this is a prelude to him. I don't know what his role is going to be. I don't know what that looks like. I don't know if he's going to be a consultant, but I think he's back on his 2 feet after his whole, last couple of years of rocky living. And he's back and he's got something to prove and he wants to make money. BNB hit an all-time high yesterday or 2 days ago, $1,000. That's 1,000x from the ICO was 10 cents, I think, actually. It's a 10,000x from 2017. Like, this guy is fucking powerful. But I do also think on the business side, I always try and think, from an objective bottom line standpoint, there's money to be made. Why would they not be trying to make money here? So at the end of the day, it always comes back to money. But I do think that, one, they want a piece of that market share. 2, it's a cool vertical to explore. 3, we're seeing open interest on perp DEX just grow week over week, month over month. It's not stopped, and it hasn't stopped since Hyperliquid launched. And I think that there is a huge product market fit here. And instead of trying to go and reinvent the wheel, they're saying, why don't we just go get a piece of what's working?
No, okay, that's a good point. And just to correct my own statistic there, the current 7-day revenue on Hyperliquid is $20 million, and
20 mil per week,
95. Right? Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
100 mil per month, right? I think their ARR is 1.2 billion, and 99% of that is going back into Hyperliquid buybacks.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's just wild. These companies, man, like the revenue chart, and I brought this up with Mando as well, our most recent episode, is that it's like the revenue page on DeFi Llama is currently, to me, like the North Star of the market. It's just something where it's just like, we're in the revenue meta. People want these companies to spend their revenue buying the token, pumping the price. And we're just like, that's just where it's at. And it's just like, I look at this every week or every couple of days and I'm like, okay, what's on here of companies that I don't know, or that like have a token that hasn't moved or something like that, right? Aster's already there. Aster's already at 2.2 million in the last 7 days. A 30-day revenue of 5.5.
They kicked off 3 days ago, I think, right? They're at a six bill market cap, but like literally just baby infant. So it can go anyway. Don't get me wrong. It can crash and burn. I'm saying that because I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't have a crystal ball. But I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I've got money in Aster. I've been buying since 40 cents. I think it's at 77 cents right now. And I mean, I'll not try and make predictions, but 6 bill market cap for a token from a company like this that wants to compete with Hyperliquid, there's probably room for upside is how I'm looking at it. Disclaimer, I will sell all of my Aster and buy Hyperliquid with it at one point.
You're targeting $6 or $4. Is the why is $4 the figure I'm seeing all over crypto Twitter?
Okay, so that's actually a little bit of a meme, and I should probably go and put that on my post because CZ's 4 that he does with his fingers, his number 4. Everything is about 4 with him, right?
Yeah.
So the whole meme right now of $4 for the token is just a play on him. It's basically a play on a person. But at the same time, at 80 cents, what are we? 6 bill. So by 5, we're gonna say at 30 billion. It's a little bit more than half of like it's possible, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's impossible. And I say that not just today, but forward looking. So I'm saying like, in the next 2 years, if we see the same kind of like unprecedented growth in Perp DEX and volume coming in on chain and people trading on these kind of platforms, growth is inevitable for everybody, right? So I'm not personally, like realistically, I'm not targeting $4 for my sells. I'm a little bit more disciplined after getting burned a bunch of times in my life. I'll sell in little tranches on the way up, but I haven't sold anything. I've just been buying.
Let's talk. Okay, thank you for that insight. We'll see. By the time this episode comes out, it's 5 days from now, so I feel like a million things are going to happen between now and then. So if you're only hearing about this token now for the first time on the show, buyer beware. And if it's $4 already, then you know where to find Jampzey. He's on a yacht somewhere. If it's $4,
I think we see $1 by the end of the month. We already hit 87 cents.
Dude, this thing is, but something like this moves. This is we're at the point in the cycle, dude, where it's like these things move like overnight. This isn't like, overnight. It's like even you saying $1, I'm like, really that long? Like this is something where it's like, this went from 4. I thought I was late at 40 cents.
I was late. I was top
like a day ago.
I almost didn't buy at 40 cents because really big shout out to Cooker, Shocked, JS, and Issa. I don't know if you saw on the timeline, but they caught this when there was only 40 million volume on it. I think it was in Pastel that they were sharing this, and they're all up a very, very, very lucrative amount. Yeah. And that's 2 days ago, and they were up like a couple 7 figures at like, I don't know, 40 cents. So at this point, I don't know what they sold, what they hold, but they're up a bag.
I think we're just at the point in the market where these things, like things that are in the billions of market caps, like them moving quickly doesn't matter anymore. You know what I mean? Like there's no like, well, it's at 5 billion. It'll take so long to get to 15. Like that's not even possible. Like even Pump felt kind of slow in a way, even though it took a month for it to get from whatever it is, 2.5 billion to 8 or 9 or whatever it peaked at,
and then we turn around and say, wow, but 2.5 billion, that means 6.5 billion market cap was added in a month. Like that's not unreasonable, right? 2 billion in a week is not unreasonable.
Yeah, there's this like insane money's not real part of the market, which is finite. It might be finite. There's a couple things I want to ask you about everything you just said. Okay, you were talking about Aster and how somebody found it when it only had $40 million of volume. How do you know that something like this could 10x so quickly? Like how are you able to spot? Because there's so many things, dude. There's so many things every single fucking day right now. These things that could keep going. How are you spotting the ones that you want to go hard at that maybe or haven't hit the timeline yet? How do you decide to buy something like that?
Okay, so this is a really cool question. I was doing a spaces yesterday with OKX. Before the spaces, I was doing a little bit of thinking because I knew it was going to be kind of trading based. And what I've come to recognize personally for myself in the way that I trade, the things that I buy, is I am often too early. And what I mean by that is I have a very short attention span when it comes to trading, holding assets. I see shiny things and I move. I have bought way too many things that have done incredibly well, way too early and flipped out of them for a loss even. Not even for a little 2x or whatever, like for a loss. Pump's a great example. I bought a huge amount of Pump. I got liquidated at the lows. Full well knowing that it's going to go back up. Now I have this price anchoring in my head if I can't buy it because I already lost X amount of dollars here, and I watched it run all the way up. Now I bought Pump at whatever it is, 80 cents, and I'm down on it, right? So I have this terrible trading discipline, but my ability to pick these winners is there. So I just need someone to control the keyboard for me and not let me press buy or sell, and I wouldn't be here anymore. But because I have this ADD, I tend to get myself trapped here. So what I'm saying with that is that my biggest problem is finding things too early and not holding on to them. But what I've found in that is the places where the opportunities or the trades that I've taken where I've been able to be the most successful are in escape velocity plays. So what I mean by that is there's kind of I'm drawing in the air with my finger, but there's kind of this graph, right? Where there's this first mover, this person comes in, there's a little first pump, and then it kind of comes down because people are going to take profits because they bought it at so cheap they can take a 10x, right? But it's barely at any market cap. But then it has a little bit of time to prove the concept, find its fit, and establish itself. And then there's this really cool like escape velocity curve that can happen, right? When something's really, really good or people really buy into a narrative and it becomes explosive. I'm really good at buying on that second leg up, on that explosive leg up, 1/4 of the way up. I don't buy it at the bottom because I like to see it find its fit first. But I'm able to see the trend happening in real time quick enough. That's when I size in. And I have friends and acquaintances that are really good at buying things. You know, the day they launch, they hold it for a year and then they become millionaires. I can't do that. I don't have the discipline to hold something. I don't have the ability to do that. So I've recognized that when I'm able to find something successfully and size into it, it's at the beginning of that second leg up, that escape velocity leg up, that just becomes explosive. And I size in really, really hard at the bottom of that second explosive leg. And I pull out my money at like a 2 or 3x and I let the rest ride. So what I mean by that is I've lost too much money trying to catch things early and hold on to them and leverage trade them and all that BS. Pepe is my example that I always come back to. Pepe is my biggest trade by far that I've ever made. But it's also probably in terms of ROI, one of the lowest trades that I've ever made because I put in like an absolute shitload of money and I made multiples of that money, but it's not like I made a 50,000% gain, right? I made a couple 100%, but I sized it on it really heavily. So Pepe was the epitome of kind of what I'm explaining, where I bought a tiny bit in the beginning. I actually flipped out and lost a couple $1,000, right? I put in like maybe 5 or 8 grand and like the low market caps. I went, no. And I sold it. And then all of a sudden I'm like, holy shit, this is it. Like, this is the first time that I had that ball tingly feeling that I was talking about earlier. So I have to do this. And I just kept sizing in on I'm buying the top. And then finally I'm up 200-300%. And I took all my initial money out and I let the rest ride. And I just chopped it up and I just kept selling little pieces of it. And at the end of the day, I looked back and I said, wow, I could have made so much more money. But what I've learned in terms of finding these plays, these only happen, in my opinion, 1 every 6 months or 1 every 8 months. Like, these kind of plays are very special. I think Aster is kind of where I'm feeling this too, where there is an ability to size in with always downside risk, but really the R&R is so high. Like the reward side to the, like, do I think CZ is going to go rug, right? Like, that's the first question. No, right? Has he showed things in the past that he doesn't show afterwards? Yes. Has he ever showed the chart? No. This is the first time. So like, I kind of go through these things where I'm like, okay, where's the risk lie? There's always risk, but like, what's the downside here? Do I think it goes to absolutely zero? No. Could it go to 40 cents today? Absolutely. But I'd double down at 40 cents, right? So I kind of build this like this web of ifs and thens. And I go, well, if this happens, then I do that. And all of a sudden I'm on Aster. I'm looking at it. I'm like, well, every time that something bad would happen in this scenario, I want to buy it. So I'm feeling very good about it, right? Whereas oftentimes I'm like, oh shit, if this chart nukes 50%, I don't think it comes back. So I'm not buying it, right? So it's this kind of like fundamental way to approach this it has nothing to do with the technicalities or charting or even the revenues that Aster is going to be able to make or not make. This is really a bet on CZ, the company that actually launched Aster, but he's an investor in it, and a bet on kind of this Perp Dex narrative. And then you take that, extrapolate it against kind of what the market looks like right now. Say, look, if you can get X amount of market share, what does that price make it? Okay, fine, there's upside. So to go back to your initial question, I find when I find a play like this, it's not often that I find a play like this. And I'll go back to Pepe. I really, really, really eat, sleep, and breathe it for a few days. And I try and find what other people are thinking. It's social arbitrage is what I call it. I'm a social trader. It's culture, it's trends, it's vibes. But when something is really resonating with a lot of the right people, it's not 100% recipe for success, But there's a higher chance of success there than me and going and buying some fucking altcoin that I'm going to wake up 20% down on tomorrow.
How often do you trade? How often do you get in and out of a ticker?
In terms of memes or just in general?
In general, like how many things have you traded every day?
Yeah.
Do you have a successful hit rate currently?
Yeah, I like it. If you look at my overall P&L, it's up for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So why is this? So how do you separate something like Aster? What else? Like, give me an example of something else you traded that's smaller. You went smaller size, quicker in and out. Why do you separate something like Aster versus something that's more like flavor of the week?
Because the trading that I do on a more regular basis is more technical trading, and it's more, liquid pairs, Bitcoin, ETH, like some alts, stuff like that. But it's more scalp trading, right? So this is like intraday, sometimes, like multi-day, sometimes week positions. But this is really trading on a technical basis. Macro, where do I see the world going? Okay, there's a Fed speech this week, or Trump's going to Russia. Like, that's how I'm trading those. I don't even care about those things when I look at this Aster or this Pepe play, because everything's going to nuke if something like that happens. But here, the thesis that I'm taking is it's way more than that. And it's not really about Bitcoin. And you can see Bitcoin's moved in the last 2 days up and down a couple percent. And there's a totally non-correlation to Aster. Like, it's had huge dips when one person clips out on a huge position that they're up on, when Bitcoin's up 3%. And vice versa. One big trader comes. So there's not really the same correlation that you'll have in like some of the more established liquid pairs. And that's why I think personally, like technical trading on newer coins like this is narrative driven, right? And that's where I think that to be able to trade narrative driven tokens, you have to be tapped into the space and have a finger on the pulse and know which people to be checking in on the pulse with, because that pulse can fade quickly. Right. And I might wake up tomorrow and say, I'm totally out of this Aster trade. I'm done. Right. CZ might say something. Someone else might find something about I have no idea. I'm making this up. Right. But this is one of those things that you take day by day, just like Pepe, and you're trying to ride that narrative and that momentum and the quantum growth that it potentially has. But you can't be scared to just say, fuck it. I don't feel the same way as I did yesterday.
Who are the best? Who do you follow for that kind of signal? Because I think that's one thing that I think a lot of people may struggle with, and I still do as well, is kind of curating your information feed, right? And some of the, people like ISOBeast have preached that kind of thing, that it's like, listen, you just read generic crypto Twitter, you're going to go in the wrong direction. You got to pick people that you think are good. How do you curate that though, right? It's not as easy as just going on and then trying to retroactively see who was right? Because not everybody's right about everything, or the best people aren't always right about everything. So how do you find that information?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I actually hope someone makes a product around this. It's funny, I made a tweet a couple weeks ago with a SHA hex code with something that I'm predicting will take a little bit of time, but I didn't want to put it on the timeline to affect a bias, right? And I'm going to come back to it in 6 months. Then I'm going to share what it says, and hopefully I'm right because I've placed my bets on it. And I think some sort of retroactive product to be able to prove that, because here's what happens. So I've done this for a long time, and I post a lot of my plays and my alpha and whatever all the time. But the game works like this: you can post 50 things, and the one that hits, you go post on Twitter. Everyone thinks you're a god. They pay your group, they buy your NFT, whatever it is. They join in, they don't do so well. It happens time and time and time again. There's no real, and I see a lot of these products trying to capture, the on-chain P&Ls, but then you have the problem with copy traders. Like, it's just there's no very, in my opinion, valid way to say who are the people finding these narratives early. You mentioned ICO. I think he's great because I love how he posts his forward-looking thesis, and then he'll quote retweet it 3 months later, say, by the way, I told you so. I think something like that's pretty cool. But a lot of people are like, well, I told you. It's like, well, no, you didn't. Or they say, well, I knew this was going to happen. It's like, well, if you knew, why didn't you put $1 million in it, right? You knew. But you didn't know.
There's some people tweet every possible outcome over time, and then eventually you'll delete a tweet. Yeah.
So that's my little qualm with it, and that's actually why I stopped posting some of the ways that I did, because it can be construed like that, and I don't like that. So I'm taking this approach now where I'm going to be posting like retro encrypted messages, so that I can actually show people this is what my thought process was. Either it works, and it won't always work. Nobody has 100% hit rate. But I want to go back and quote, retweet, and share it and say, look, here's why I took this approach. Here's why I think it worked or why it didn't work. And the next time I see something like this, this is what I'm going to change in my strategy, right? Or maybe I won't take a play like this. I don't know. But your question is, who do you follow? That's a great fucking question. It's a very hard answer, and I'm kind of postponing the answer because I don't know how to answer it fully.
It's okay.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to name drop specific people. I think there's a lot of different people that do a lot of different. I mean, I could if you want.
Well, we want somebody. I mean, if you have somebody, I mean, people are going to follow you after this, and if you have somebody extra to follow, maybe a lesser known crypto person, then that'll be helpful for us.
I'm just a penguin, so be careful. But what I'll say is the number one way to get your pulse, your real finger on the pulse of the market is the more entrenched you are, the more you live it, the more you'll see it. And what I mean by that is I agree with ICO in an aspect of, don't just take everything on crypto Twitter at surface value, like take it with a grain of salt, but there's still consensus there, right? And if you are in the space, so I'm going to use myself as an example, and a lot of the people who are the accounts that are posting about things or trading things, I know the people that have capital. I know the people that actually trade. I know the people that are being paid to make the posts, or I know people that are absolutely just LARPing and screen like whatever you call it, photoshopping their shit, whatever you want to call it. And then you find the right people who are actually trading. I think okay, I'm going to give you a name, and this is not a name that I think we see enough.
Here we go.
OG D Farmer.
Oh yeah.
D Farmer is a fucking incredible account. He does not post a lot of stuff. When I say stuff, I mean plays or tickers but when he does, he lives it until it plays its course. And yeah, D Farmer for me he's a super, super switched on guy. I'm not very good friends with him by any means, but I've known him for a long time from the Bored Ape community way back when. But he's super, super switched on. And I've seen him catch narratives early, and not just catch them early by saying I'm going to do this, but putting his money where his mouth is, and profiting off of his thesis very well. Because we know a lot of the common ones in the space, right? I mean, we mentioned ICO already. He's a great account. I would follow ICO too. I love his account. I look up to him. I think the way that he posts and what he does in the space is really cool. But I think this is a super underlooked account. And I think that a lot of people in the Basie community know D Farmer. But you see, his timeline's not shilly. He's not shilling stuff. He's not pushing all these things. But if you scroll far enough, you'll see there's certain things that he'll just take and he'll adopt, and he'll just for a year post about it, buy it, continue to, even when it's at the lows, at the low lows. So D Farmer's a great account. Shout out if you watch this, D Farmer. We'll
get him on. We'll get him on. We'll get this guy on. That's it. If anything, this is also a good guest recommendation as well, right? Like we want to know who our guests and the people that we're learning from. We want to know who they learn from and who they look up to as well. So that's a great recommendation. Actually, I want to ask you about because we're almost out of time. So you've given us great insight, but one thing also to look forward to, because we don't know what's going to happen to Aster by the time we're done this, or by the time people listen to it. We're heading all of a sudden we're going to be in like a crazy airdrop season in Q4. Right?
Holy shit, and man.
I feel like for a while, it's like maybe we'll have airdrops and Meteora or like, whatever OpenSea, but now it's like suddenly it's like, holy shit, man. Everybody is like racing. Suddenly MetaMask and Rabbi are like in a race towards.
But wait, pause.
Token. Yeah,
you're right. And this goes back to what you're saying about Aster and Hyperliquid and kind of the philosophy that I took of, once one person and two people come in this gold rush, now everybody's rushing because there's only so much capital to go around to buy tokens. And if someone launches a good token before you and someone takes a position in that and starts enjoying it and being a community member, they're not going to take that same $1 million and just move it to the next token that comes out, right? I think a lot of these companies are starting to see real big companies launching their tokens. They're talking about it and they're saying, shit, we have to be first. Rabbi and MetaMask is a great example. It's the same thing where there's only so many people that are going to buy or trade these tokens. And there's an unlimited amount of these tokens that are going to come out at one point or another. So I think that for the on-chain user, like for you and me, this is fucking awesome. Because now they're all having, these different companies basically push each other into TGE season, where we're now all the on-chain participants that are going to get to really profit from it. And I think some of these coins are going to get absolutely dunked on. Like some of these companies waited way too many, not just months, but years to do this. And now there are competitors with products that are actually competitive. Yeah. And like my approach is MetaMask here. If MetaMask did a token, found a way to, I'm not in the business. I don't understand MetaMask to its full degree, whatever. I know that Consensus was dealing with SEC stuff for years, so I get that there's constraints there. But in a perfect world, if they could have launched 2 years ago, 10 billion FEV right away. I don't think they get that today. I don't think they get 50% of that today, because there are now competitors like Rabby who are going to take some of the market share. So same thing going back to the DEX thing is, I look at this as a big pie, and everybody wants a piece of the pie, right? And now all of a sudden that pie, it's getting sliced out. So people are having to step in to make sure that they get their piece.
Yeah, and there's also like, I fully agree with you, and it's funny how these things turn into a race. We're seeing it with prediction markets as well, where speculation for a long time, but now everybody's raising, and it's clear that Polymarket and Kalshi are going to be like, full out race to get to tokenization as quickly as possible. And you're going to see there's so many places doing that. But one thing that always comes back to me for tokenization, which is one of the things I learned very early in crypto, is that it's like, it's the most beautiful VC exit in the world without having to actually, it's like such a funny way, instead of doing an IPO, you just do an ICO, or not an ICO, you do a TGE, right? And it's just something where the best example to me, and something I'm really curious to see how it plays out, and I think a lot of people think it's going to go down a lot, is OpenSea, right? If you look at their funding rounds, you've got $100 million in July 2021, 300 million in January 2022.
And now it's fractions of that.
It's 3.5 years ago, right?
Yeah, these guys it's fractions of that.
Oh yeah, so it's like something where it's like you have these people who've invested in your company a long time ago, and it's like they waited through the bear market and watch you just fucking sink to nothing, almost get completely obliterated. Especially OpenSea, Blur, and everybody else came along, sit on your hands for so long, and now they're like, listen, the market's hot, Bitcoin's going to pump to whatever it is. Give me a fucking exit, please.
But you're right, and that's where I think that some people I see the timeline is full of like, oh, why does a wallet need a coin, and why does this need a coin? And the answer is it doesn't. And you're absolutely right, where I don't think people are versed in how some of these companies are able to liquidate tokens that are even vested, sell locks, have MMs liquidate for them. Like there's a whole different business out there for how these exits work, and how I mean like the VCs and the people that have the stakes that are locked, etc. There's ways to sell illiquid assets. I mean, look at people selling yaps when Kaito came out, right? Crypto was in the market for making markets for illiquid assets, right? And there are a lot of products that are launching tokens that I think should never have a token. There's no need to. Again, prediction markets, I'm very curious to see how this plays out. Limitless is launching their token in 2 days, or at least their campaign ends. So I don't know if the TGE is in 2 days, but they're going to be the first prediction market that has a decent amount of volume that's going to launch a token. They're still nowhere near Kalshi or Polymarket, but I am pretty interested to see as a kind of proof of concept how they're going to integrate this token into their platform, and is it very necessary? Can they create utility around it that actually helps the price go up, or is this just a way to raise some money to keep the company growing? I don't know. We've never seen a prediction market with any substance to it launch a token. But I'm very curious, because like I'm of the mind right now, not from the VC side, but as the user side, I don't see the need for it. This is a business that you can run on the blockchain as a traditional business. It's kind of like a gambling sports book with these lines, and you make the money, and there's like, why need the token? Other than making the money as a business, fine, but take that out. Like, is there really does it really level up the business? I don't know yet. And I'm very happy to be proven wrong when these things come out. But I just don't see how, like, me logging in saying, is Solana going to be over or higher than 250 on November 30th? Buy yes now, or yes or no. Like, what are we doing here?
James, it's about decentralization, man, and governance. Come on.
Yeah, we're decentralizing all the money into our wallets.
Our community will now be part of our journey. That was the message. That was the message last time. Everybody's like, yes, of course, let's all be in governance.
We ride together. Yeah.
Nobody wanted to fucking do proposals and vote on shit. No, like, fuck that, man. Like,
and neither should they. This is where, like, one of my first experiences in the space where I got pretty burnt was with a DAO. And what I learned from that experience was, and I tell people this all the time, is that most people should not be voting on fundamental business aspects of a business. And what I mean by that is, in traditional business or in the world, we have Elon Musk, who is going to be the CEO. We have a board of directors who says, okay, we think this person is competent enough to make the decisions for us on our behalf and the behalf of investors. But the investors aren't telling us how to price the Tesla. They're not telling us where to go buy the tie. Like they have no idea how it affects the internal business and the bottom line. And so just like DAOs and decentralization, I'm a huge believer in decentralizations in a lot of ways, but I also do believe that centralized authority in a lot of, not everywhere. I think decentralization as its whole, I'm very pro, but there's a lot of businesses that go the route of governance where I'm like, why the fuck are you letting people vote on that? People are going to vote in their own self-interest, which has nothing to do with the business's alignment. And why would you let an investor say, let's sell it for 5x the price because we're going to make more money? Well, no, we're not going to sell any units, right? Like, it's just like, it makes no sense to me oftentimes. So let's see how the decentralization works.
Champ, we're at the end of our show. Give me one token that isn't Aster, or maybe something that we haven't talked about at all here. One token or one narrative or something like that is a dark horse of this conversation that you're bullish on for the next 6 months.
Okay, so Hyperliquid is my biggest bag, so I'm not even going to show that because I think everybody that goes to my page will see
I don't
that.
think you need to. I don't think you need to. Yeah, everybody knows that. Yeah.
There's two coins that I'm looking to get entries on that I haven't gotten my entries on yet that I think are a little bit slept on: AVAX and Link. I think that there's some cool stuff happening in the world. AVAX just hired a very prominent lord for their board. Link, I think some of the technology and again, going back to the regulatory landscape and some of these new rules and a lot of the pressure that's backed off, Link has a pretty cool tech stack that people are using. I think Link's at it's actually done incredibly well in the last couple of months. It's at $24 right now. Like I have buys at like $20. I might not even get them. If I do, I'm happy. But Chainlink and AVAX are two of the tokens, two of the alts. I don't want to talk about like super micro cap stuff that I put the name here and it's going to pump or dump. But those are two. Those are two.
That's what I wanted. That's what I wanted.
Yeah. I try and stay away. But Link and AVAX are two tokens that I think that in this rising tide lifts all ships. But I think when this tide kind of slows down, I want to pick the winners that are still going to kind of stay up. And there's some tokens that I'm seeing go up a substantial amount, like we talked about before the show, like billions of dollars, where I'm saying, well, I get why that's happening now because of the way the market is. But when the market turns around, that's not the right valuation, in my opinion. And I think there's going to be a lot of people caught holding some bags because we have this. I mean, the alt market's been slaughtered, right? We're finally starting to see some numbers pump in the alt market. And I'm seeing people starting to buy some of these tokens at like prices that are, I don't know, like if Bitcoin moved 10% right now, some of these coins are going to get slaughtered. So I'm trying to find winners that I can bet on, like alt winners that I can bet on that will survive a slaughter if it comes to that.
That's a great way to end it. So find winners that will survive the slaughter. This week, there have not been many. Despite the Fed meeting, especially in the smaller cap space, which is where we live, that stuff has been bleeding fucking dry.
By the way, since we started, what time's it? Oh, never mind. I'm Aster by $1 billion, but no, it's been a couple hours. Aster's at 80 cents. We're almost at
80 cents. There you go. We should maybe on these shows we should start with like buying a token at the start of the recording and then see where it's at by the end. Just like,
you want to know what would be a cool concept? You could take $100 every time you do the show, find a sponsor, find someone to do it, and ask for the token from the person that you're hosting on the show and buy it. And then come back in 1 year and see how the portfolio performed. And then have this post-mortem and say, why do we think this did well? Or like have the people back on and literally have that stake.
And have it be competitive in a way too, right? That it's like, okay, well, here's all the people who come on the show. Here's been their pick. And who's outperformed who with the pick, right?
There's a really cool way to do that. And you could leaderboard it. You could make infographics. You could kind of promote that as part of there's a cool way. We'll talk about that off stream, but I think there's a cool concept that you could run with there.
Jamp's coming up with ways to promote the show, man. I like it. We're getting free marketing advice here right at the end of the recording. This is awesome, man. I'm gonna end the recording so we get some more. Jamps, thank you so much, man, for coming on the show. Been awesome to chat with you.
Pleasure, man. It's super cool. I know I'll be back, and when I'm back, the Aster price will hopefully be higher than when I left.
If it's at $4, you're the first person I'm calling.
Deal, brother.
Want updates from the trenches alongside the tokens we're trading? Sub to our channel, then join the Milk Road Degen and Degen Pro newsletters. This show's for educational purposes only. Nothing we say is financial advice. Investing is risky. Never invest more than you can afford to lose.